Well, hello, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Quality Hub, Chatting with ISO Experts. I'm your host, Xavier Francis, and I'm here again with Suzanne Weber-Smatko and Suzanne Strausser here at Core, part 2 of our 3-part podcast on non-conformances, corrective actions, and trends and analysis. Today, we are doing the second part, which is corrective actions, and we're going to be going into some root cause analysis.
Wow. Seems like we were just here.
I know, right?
I can't believe it's a new week already.
I know. It's nuts. It's crazy. Back together, get the band back together again. Right?
That's right.
You know? If anybody's interested in checking out the first part of this, please listen to it. Now let's get started. And we're going to start with Suzanne. What is a corrective action?
All right, let's sing the tune of corrective actions this week, I guess, right? Corrective action is defined by the standard as the action that you take to correct the root cause of a nonconformity or a nonconformance. Basically, it's how you solve problems in your business.
Okay.
A corrective action is taken when a problem is found in a process, and the goal of the corrective action is to ensure the nonconformity or problem is not repeated.
All right.
More of the deeper dive. It's more than just correcting a surface level issue. It's really digging in and addressing the process that allowed the nonconformance to occur in the first place.
Okay.
It's not just treating the symptom. It's really getting to the root cause of the problem.
Well, when do you need one of these corrective actions?
I would say a corrective action is needed if you think that a scenario is likely to happen again.
Okay.
You know, we talked about nonconformances in our last episode.
Mm-hmm.
If you looked at the number of nonconformances that you have in any given time and you saw that you've had a reoccurring problem, a corrective action is probably necessary. You might want to ask yourself some questions related to the impact of the nonconformity. Is it serious? Will it have an impact on your customers, the safety of your team, the management system, your overall objectives?
Okay.
You know, these kind of questions can help you determine if a root cause investigation is needed to ensure that the problem doesn't happen again.
So what are the steps you take for corrective action?
The corrective action process is designed to eliminate the weakness in a failed process. It's important to not just address the nonconformity itself, but to evaluate the process to find the root cause of the problem.
You want to make sure the nonconformity is taken care of. But this is the next part after.
Yeah. You want to make sure you have a thorough investigation of the problem.
Okay.
You know, tracing back to all the symptoms and asking yourself why. There are many different methodologies of getting to methodologies out there in the world of how you can conduct a root cause and corrective action. Documenting these type of things and tracking your progress is going to enable you to review and evaluate the effectiveness of the actions that you're going to take.
Okay.
Effective corrective actions will result in elimination of the weaknesses or nonconformances of your processes. You want that, again, because it's going to save you money, right? You don't want to keep having the same problem over and over again. So you might supply objective evidence that your actions were successful, not just that changes or new practices were implemented. You need to take it a step further and prove that the actions taken were effective in eliminating and implementing successful nonconformance.
Okay.
So once you have determined and implemented a successful corrective action, you must then turn to your risks and opportunities of your management system and update any discoveries made as you went through the corrective action process. You have to think again globally or systemic. Mm-hmm. What else does it impact? How are we going to eliminate this? It's not just treating the symptom. It's taking a deep dive approach to fixing the problem.
Okay. So obviously, if you're looking at something that's system-wide, systemic, global, that's going to bring in management into part of this as well.
Absolutely. Corrective actions is one of the things that you're going to report out on in your management review meetings. You definitely want your leadership to be aware of what your systemic issues are. Mm-hmm. During your management reviews, you may want to bring some type of reporting that kind of quantifies what your biggest issues are, what your biggest corrective actions are that you're facing. Okay. This is all to continually work towards identifying improvements for your business.
Right.
We talked a little bit earlier about documenting nonconformances, documenting corrective actions. The standard requires you to keep records of these things, not because they want it to be administrative burdensome, but they want you to be able to identify data-driven decisions, I guess.
Right. And eventually look at trends and analysis. So now, Suze, how do you find root cause?
Oh, boy.
That's the big question. And
all right.
It's a big process.
Take us there, Suze.
Yep. I have a lot to say about this, so
okay.
buckle up. Well, I mean, I think one thing is that The root cause cannot be a restatement of the problem.
Okay.
So you can't say, okay, the problem was we shipped the wrong part, and the root cause was we shipped the wrong part.
Nope.
Not going to work.
It's the why did you ship.
We'll get to that. All right. So when you complete a root cause analysis, it's how you discover the underlying reasons for the nonconformity. So by finding and fixing the root cause, you ensure that the problem in the process isn't repeated. That's the whole point.
All right.
And I think Suzanne mentioned there are different methods to get to root cause. We have a method we use here that I like, so that's why we still use it.
Okay. And what might that be?
So I'll kind of walk through the steps. So
right.
Step 1 is to really understand the symptom. So what I mean by that is every time you see a problem, that is just a symptom. So think about it when you go to the doctor, for example, you go with a fever, as we probably all have. And if your doctor is any good, they're going to assume that the fever is just a symptom of something else.
Right.
Now they're going to treat that fever, but they're probably going to run some more tests to get to the root of the problem. Maybe you have an infection. Well, then they should investigate that to find out why. And that's what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Don't just fix the thing you see without understanding why it occurred, because it'll never be fixed permanently if you don't.
Right.
There's that it's attributed to Einstein, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing
again.
over and over again.
Expecting a different result.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Okay.
So be an Einstein.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important to develop a full understanding of the nonconformance, which is truly a symptom, before working on the solution.
Okay.
We also tend to jump to conclusions as humans, and you don't want to do that in this process
we found it. Let's go.
Yeah. So somebody who's, really fully ingrained in the process should take time to talk to the people involved. We've talked about a lot on the podcast.
Yep.
They're the people who know what's going on.
Yeah.
So also determine how severe the consequence is, for you, your customer, your employees, whatever, and find out if this is a reoccurring thing.
Okay.
So once you understand the problem and the symptom, then, figure out, is there something actually in place already? You have a corrective action in progress, because sometimes you may not know what's going on in all the rest of the organization.
Maybe you're having the same issue over here.
So if not, then ask if there's anything you need to do now to fix or resolve the symptom. Like with a fever, you're going to take some...
Yeah, maybe take Tylenol
some
or
Tylenol, whatever.
Yep.
But the fix doesn't address the root cause. And it's going to, help that specific occurrence of the nonconformance, but you still have to do more.
Right.
So after you develop your understanding, use this knowledge to help lead you to its source. Okay. And asking yourself why the problem is happening, and kind of keep asking again until you're able to identify the first step in the chain.
At this point, when I first was put into the whole why thing, it made me think of a kid. You got a kid there and you're like, Dad, why is the sky blue? And then you give them an answer and they go, why? And then you give them another answer and they go, why? But they're really trying to get back to the full reason.
Correct. And that's what you're trying to do here.
And that's what you're trying to do.
You're trying to work backwards to get to the initial step. And, lots of people have heard of the 5 why methodology, where you ask 5 times to get the root. 5's not written in stone. And you have to ask the right why, because you just can't say why. Sometimes it's, well, why is that this way? Or why did this?
Why do we do it that way?
Yeah, exactly. And I always go back to the last why that's within your control. It's like, don't go back to, well, why was the building built here? Okay, you've gone too far.
Yeah.
Right?
You can't really you're not really going to move the building unless there's a whole lot of whys.
Correct. So some situations lead you to the initial problem with only a few questions, and others can take a lot longer, to identify that process that should have prevented the problem from occurring. So again, just keep asking why until you're sure you've uncovered the initial problem.
Gotcha.
And this is called the failed process. So this is the one that should have prevented the initial problem. If it were working properly, the problem would not have occurred. So avoid blaming people involved in the process, and instead, look at the process itself. Pieces that are hard to do right, easy to do wrong,
Okay.
or more complicated than they need to be.
All right.
Okay. Then we can talk about root cause.
We haven't even gotten there yet.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
All right. So once you get back to that fail process, we say that there are really 4 root cause types.
Okay.
So there's standardization, communication, implementation, and capability. Okay. And I'm going to talk through what each of those are here in a second.
Okay.
And non-conformances can have more than one root cause. So
okay.
it's important to look at all the underlying causes and issues. And if you're going to fix something, you basically pick what you think is the main one to start with and see if that really addresses or alleviates the non-conformance. But let's start with standardization.
All right. What is standardization then?
So the question that you ask yourself is, are the process steps defined and documented in a way that will prevent problems?
Okay.
Do you have a well-defined and documented method that, when followed, gives you the results you want? So well-defined means that the process steps and goals have been determined and documented. And it could be in the form of a checklist, a video, procedure, a flow chart, whatever.
Okay.
But if you go back and look at that issue, the process that failed, and you say, you know what? No, we didn't have this defined at all.
So this is the steps you want to go through to make sure it's successful.
Yes. Then you have a standardization issue if you don't have it defined.
Okay.
Which is, again, the right starting spot.
Right.
If something happened and it's not defined, well, you don't have a lot of chance of having it being repeatable and capable.
Right. I mean, some people might find it's intuitive, but that doesn't mean if you find it's intuitive that somebody else does.
Yeah. So typically it means you don't have a standard of practice established, or maybe it's something new and you haven't had a chance to establish that process yet.
It might be standard for one person, but it might not be standard for the rest of those people.
And that is a question to ask too, because if people say, well, I hear you do it this way, and somebody else says, well, I think I heard you do it this way. Yeah, no, that's by rumor. That's management by rumor.
Management by rumor.
That's not
like
documented.
That.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep. I like that, management by rumor.
So that's the first question. But if you don't find an issue in standardization, say you look and, hey, we have a defined and documented process.
We've talked about how we're supposed to do this.
Yep. And that particular step, it's all written down here. Okay, great.
All right.
Then we move on to question 2.
Which is?
So once you've ruled that out, the next issue deals with people and understanding.
Okay.
So do the people responsible for the process steps fully understand them? And can you objectively determine that everybody completely comprehends the process and its goals, and they have the skills and tools to do the job correctly? That's a lot.
So it's not just, it's more than just understanding that.
Yeah, we shortcut it by saying understanding. Yeah. We all know that just because something's been defined and communicated, well, I sent the memo, that doesn't mean it's understood.
Right.
Okay. So it's imperative that you evaluate your training programs for effectiveness, through an exam or a simulation, or show me some kind of supervisory sign off, or
and we talked about that a few weeks ago, how with Aaron,
yes,
and Suzanne.
Yeah, you might have manufacturing engineers writing work instructions for people who are on the floor, but they might not.
Right.
They might not be able to understand them like they do.
Right.
Yes. So this is where you talk to your team, and essentially you can ask them to explain the process they're performing. And if they can explain it in their own words, they can illustrate understanding, then that's a good thing. If they struggle, then maybe they need more training.
Okay. Or the training might need to be updated.
Correct. And if you have multiple people doing the same role, you can ask ask them individually and see if you get the same answer, or if you get differences or whatever. But if you find that a lack of understanding is the source of your nonconformity, your corrective action would be to provide training to build better understanding. If you currently have a training process, the lack of understanding may signify, like you just said, it's time to evaluate your training program or your methods.
Right. We talked about how people learn differently, and maybe this is
absolutely.
Yeah.
And obviously remember to record and document your training to ensure that you've carried through with each step and with each person. But if you've gone back and investigated, so now this is all sequential. So we've got a nice written process. People can explain it properly. They understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So now you move on to question 3.
So obstacles in implementation would be the next one?
Yep. And can we objectively determine that this process can be consistently followed? So that's another aspect.
Okay.
So here's where you evaluate your process. You look at the steps being performed. You may find that there are steps in the process where people do not do it as defined,
Okay.
even though they understand it, right? Yeah, and here's where, in the process where mistakes can be made when your team is distracted or trying to save time or making up for short staffing
Right.
or whatever. When things are hard to do right, they're often compromised.
Okay.
So workarounds are performed, for
Right.
example. If it's overcomplicated or hard to follow, even though that's what we've defined and that's what they understand, they take shortcuts.
Right.
In the same vein, sometimes process steps are easy to do wrong. So mistakes and human error, that's where this appears, right?
Or maybe it's maybe an issue. Let's say you have stuff that needs to be picked up with a forklift and loaded onto a certain shelf, and that forklift isn't always available. So we store them down here until the forklift is available. That's an obstacle that you're not thinking
And that's
of.
a hard to do right one,
Yep.
right?
Hard to do right one.
Yep. So the easy to do wrong ones, again, where you'll see where it looks like human error.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because it's a process that's easy to do wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it will be done wrong sometimes, especially when people are rushed or tired or distracted or frustrated or bored or whatever.
Right.
Problems that look like people issues are almost always a process issue.
Okay.
And the one way to check, and I always, always, always tell customers this, if you put another person in that process on that job, are you going to have the same problem? And if you are, then you have a process issue to deal with.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here's where you'll see a lot of people jump to training as a solution. Well, they did it wrong, so they must not understand it. I'm just going to retrain. I'm going to highlight it in yellow when I send out these instructions. It's never going to work. Your process is bad.
So you have to find another way to do it.
Yeah. So one example, if your product requires a certain part to be inserted and that part is easy to insert upside down, it's going to happen. So if you find that there are, ways to fix that permanently, then do that.
Right. Right.
You're a pokey-yoki or something.
Yep, that's it.
A pokey-yoki?
That's the term.
Pokey-yoki.
Mistake proofing. Absolutely. So, okay, now in our progression. So we've gone through that exercise and we find that there are no obstacles. People are performing the way you intended, but you're still having issues with the process. So in that case, you have a capability problem with the process. And you got to ask yourself, does the process need to be modified? This happens when you've written it in the conference room, you've trained people, they're doing it, but you don't get the results you intend, right? So you have to go back to the drawing board and kind of start over.
And here's where you can engage your employees and those that do it.
Oh,
that have great
absolutely.
ideas.
Always engage the employees. They know what's going on. I would add to the entire scenario that Suze has laid out for us here is, 95% of the time, people want to blame the person.
Right.
And 95% of the time, it definitely is a process, if not more. It is a process issue. And I think more people are less likely to want to identify process issues, but that's what's going to eliminate your issues.
It's going to fix
It's going to fix it. The intent here is long-term fix, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What are those steps again?
Remember, you're going back to the process that failed, or you think that failed, and asking, do you have a standardization issue? So do you have it defined and documented, first of all? If yes, the next question is, do you have an understanding issue?
Right. Can the people understand what those directions are?
Yeah, or do they need training?
Right.
Then third is, if those are both true, the third thing is, are there obstacles in that process that cause an issue with its implementation?
Gotcha.
Okay. And then if those are all good, then you have a capability problem with that process and you have to go back to the drawing board.
And redo the process.
Yeah.
So could you give us an example of one of those?
All right. So here's a scenario.
Okay.
Manufacturing company has experienced an increase in the number of defective products coming off the assembly line over the past month.
All right.
Okay. So the problem statement would be increase in defective products on the assembly line.
So why is this happening?
So if we walk through 5 whys, let's try 5. So the first question is, why is there an increase in defective products on the assembly line? Well, you might find because some of the products have been found to have been missing some components.
Okay. Well, that's kind of important. Make sure all the components are there.
Why are the components missing? Well, because an automated component feeder is intermittently failing to supply parts.
Mm.
Well, why is that happening? Why is it failing to supply parts? Well, because the feeder motor is overheating and shutting down sporadically.
Oh, so it has to cool itself out.
Right.
Mm.
So, yeah, so that you're getting ahead of us here. So why is it overheating and shutting down? Because the cooling fan inside the motor is not functioning properly.
Oh.
Okay. Why is it not functioning properly? Because the cooling fan's electrical connection is loose due to vibrations from the production line.
Oh, so the production line's vibrating, making the connection loose, making the fan go off, making it overheat, and then the components not coming out.
I'd have fun with this one.
Yeah.
Right. So let's just restate. The root cause is an increase in defective products in a loose electrical connection on the cooling fan inside the feeder motor caused by vibrations from the production line.
Okay.
So corrective action. So short-term solution, secure the electrical connection to the cooling fan and prevent it from coming loose.
So duct tape.
Sure.
Works for everything.
Yep. Long-term solution. This is your actual corrective action. Implement vibration damping mounts for the feeder motor to reduce vibrations and prevent future issues with cooling fan and other components.
Okay.
Where's your preventative maintenance program?
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
She's getting there. She's getting there.
Preventative measures. Schedule regular maintenance checks to ensure all electrical connections are secure. Train maintenance staff to recognize and address signs of vibration-related issues.
Okay.
And then there's some follow-up.
What? Be proactive rather than reactive?
So the follow-up would be then to, monitor your defect rate, see how you're doing for 3 months, make sure everything's addressed, and then conduct a follow-up inspection to verify the stability, functionality of the cooling fan and feeder motor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phew.
What if it's a service one?
All right. Here's the scenario. Customer service organization has noticed a significant decline in customer satisfaction ratings over the past quarter.
That's not good.
Yes. So decline in customer satisfaction. So why is there a decline in customer satisfaction ratings? Well, because customers are reporting longer wait times before speaking to a representative. Why is that? Well, because there are fewer representatives available to handle incoming calls. Why are there fewer representatives? Because several representatives have left the company recently. Uh-oh. Why is that? Well, they were dissatisfied with their work environment and compensation. And why is that? Because there have been no recent adjustments to salaries or efforts to improve workplace conditions, leading to low morale and high turnover. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Yes. So
that can be a problem, right?
That is a problem.
Response times,
Yeah.
Sounds like a process capability issue there. You've gotten back to this failed process of employee dissatisfaction.
Right.
That's bad.
That is bad.
So short-term solution, hire temporary staff to handle the increased call volume.
Okay.
Maybe offer some overtime incentives to current reps to manage the peak times. Then your long-term solution is a little trickier. So maybe conduct a comprehensive review of your compensation package.
Yep. See if it's in line with what people need.
Make
what others are doing.
adjustments as you need.
Automate something.
Some things. Implement programs to improve the work environment, like some team building, some maybe flexible work schedules, recognition program, all that
Pizza
stuff.
once a week.
Yeah, I don't know about that. And then, preventative measures, which you really like, Suzanne. Regular employee satisfaction surveys to identify issues before they occur.
Yes.
A retention plan, all that.
Yeah.
And then kind of monitor for your verification and follow-up, monitor down the road and see if it's made an impact.
Got to keep employees happy.
And check in with your people, for sure.
It's probably a really, really good place to mention the fact that in non-conformance and corrective action, really everyone does own quality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It really does. It's a good example
That's true.
Years ago, I used to have that quality manager that sat in that back closet and, handled all the problems of the...
That was me.
Yeah, that was me too.
Yeah.
All the problems of the company. Here, you're in quality. Why did it get out? Or
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
you fix it.
Yep.
Well, no, because I really don't own the symptom or...
It's everybody.
Yeah. So,
Well, this is really great. I know it's been a little bit longer one today, and we want to thank you. We'll talk about next week a little bit more about corrective actions, and then we're going to get into trends and analysis.
ooh,
Nice.
Really appreciate you both being here.
good stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we want to thank everyone who's listened to our podcast today. We hope it's been informative for you. And just a reminder that we will have part 3 of this series where we're going to be discussing corrective action and trends and analysis. Now, if you're looking for more information about core business solutions, how we can help you with ISO certification, cybersecurity, customized training, helping you when you're dealing with your non-conformances, root cause analysis, and all those things, please reach out to us at info@thecoresolution.com. Or you can visit our website at www.thecoresolution.com. And if you haven't already followed us on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube, be sure to do so. That way you won't miss the next Quality Hub podcast when it's released next week. Have a great day.